Guys, what's going on? Welcome to the second Serial at Midnight audio commentary. This is for the movie Batman from 1989. And I am joined for this commentary by a man who loves Batman, who has been known to stalk the night. It is Joshua Jabkuga. Now, Josh is well, first of all, hi, Josh. How are you?
What's up, Heath? How are you?
I'm doing good, man. So you were the choice for me to do this Batman commentary with because you love it. You might love it as much, if not more, than I do. You seem to have even more history with this movie than I do. So you seem like the ideal person for this commentary to co-commentate.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Let me give the listeners just a rundown of your credits really quick. You have written for Kevin Smith's Movie Poop Shoot website. You have written for Chuck Palahniuk's website, and you have just wrapped up the 5-issue series, limited series, miniseries, whatever, the 5-issue series of Bubba Hotep and the Cosmic Bloodsuckers, which you adapted from Joe R. Lansdale's novel.
Yes, sir.
Is there any? Did I leave anything out?
No, you got it all. That's just my latest from IDW Publishing.
Yes, and it's on newsstands now. Our bookstore shelves now.
Absolutely.
So I got to be honest before we even start this commentary. I just have to be honest with with those listening to this. This is take 2 for this commentary because take 1 was it was a clusterfunk, and there was some audio issues on my end. They've been worked out. Like knock on wood, they've been worked out. I think we got everything taken care of. Do I sound okay, Josh?
You sound just magnificent.
Do I sound sexy?
Well, save that for me.
Okay. All right. So we're going to count down. We'll do 3, 2, 1, play. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, play. All right. I had to hit it twice because it was asleep. Okay. So, all right. I got the Warner Brothers logo.
As do I.
Now, this scene that we're about to this is so weird because we've talked about all this before, but we're gonna try to keep it fresh. We're gonna try to keep it spontaneous.
Now I'm watching the Christian Bale Batman, right? And you're gonna watch the Michael Keaton Batman. Is that how we're doing this to make it
That's
fresh?
right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And he's like, C is for cookie. That's your Batman. I gotta turn the sound off on mine so that I don't get a letter from Warner Brothers.
Cease and desist.
Yeah, like we regret to inform you that you're. I don't know why Warner Brothers sounds like that, but I gotta call it. So
Simpsons voice, isn't it?
It kind of is, yeah, yeah. We're inside the bat symbol right now. I've never been inside the bat symbol. This is kind of it's an exciting experience.
We're gonna take a deep dive today, Heath.
We're going inside the bat suit. We're going inside the bat bathroom. So many things we're going to check out from the inside. No, but we're inside the bat symbol. I don't know what this is. I don't know if this is like foam, rubber, or like
it could be like a futon, almost like a postmodern futon. It would be great to have one at home. I feel like I could just lounge around in one, right? You could
inside of this bat symbol, like a bat symbol futon.
Yeah, wouldn't that be great?
Oh, then it could like somehow unfold into a bed.
Bat
bed.
In case in case the company stays a little bit late,
Yeah.
Sleep. Would you like to sleep like Bat Bachelor?
The Bat Bachelor. Now, I would actually be interested in the Bachelor TV show if Batman was the Bachelor. If it was Bruce Wayne.
That would be interesting. I would watch that.
I do love this sequence though. We're watching the like we're zooming out and it's like, oh, yeah. It's the bat symbol. It looks like stone.
Revelation now. Yeah, it does. It's like a granite or something, right? Like a.
Again, probably. I mean, maybe it's just like plaster of Paris. Plasticaster. I tell you what, people.
Is that the lead singer from Clusterfunk?
It is.
All right.
It is. Let's see. So, matte painting.
Beautiful matte painting.
I miss it. Do you miss matte paintings?
I do. Yeah. Being a a child of the 80s. I was quite accustomed to them, and there's something magical about them, right? You don't see them like you used to, do you?
So I gotta say, okay, you said you're a child of the 80s. How does that work? Because I was here, so I was born in 79. You were born in 77, right?
Yes, I was.
So how do we establish what we were a child of? Because like you were also, like you're driving, in the early 90s. So are you also a child of the 90s? How do we distinguish? I'm not sure.
Well, that's a good question. I think, yeah, I could say to myself, well, it's the year I began playing with action figures and stopped. But really, don't we still play with action figures?
I'm playing with action figures right now.
Right.
By the way, action figures is code name for never mind.
Mint on card.
Yes. I read somewhere in a trivia thing that this prostitute right here was originally supposed to be a 14-year-old girl, and they decided that that was not copacetic, and I agree with that decision. Good call on that one.
It is a good call. It wouldn't have aged well, probably.
Yeah, no one would be allowed. No one would be allowed to show this, screen this.
It would have been released by Code Red. It would have been a Code Red title. Good double feature with joysticks, maybe.
Yeah, and no one would joysticks. Yes. But the thing is, no one would be able to buy it because it'd be released.
That big cartel store would shut down quicker than you could hit.
Yeah. They'd make 3,000 of them, but they only ever stocked 200. And who knows where the rest of them are. They're in Bill Wilson's bathroom.
Big shout out to the Banana Man. Let's give him a...
People are like, isn't this the Batman commentary?
Yeah, well, Banana Man, wasn't that a... Never mind.
Maybe so. Maybe he's one of the obscure Batman villains. Banana.
I think there was a show on Nickelodeon when I was younger, Banana Man and Danger Mouse, wasn't it?
Yeah. No, was Banana Man affiliated with Danger Mouse?
I think they just kind of blocked them together, but I don't think there was like a proper affiliation, because I know I do have Danger Mouse, the box set, and I don't.
Do you really?
Oh, come on. I had to.
I need that box set. That's I bet, you know what? I bet it's on like a UK DVD, and it's probably like $4 or something like that. Everything
probably, yeah.
Everything in the UK seems so much like all their DVD sets seem so much cheaper. You get to fill up your gas tank at a gas station. They're like, would you like this Doctor Who DVD for 50p extra? You're like, oh, yeah, sure. We're not okay. We're talking over the big reveal of Batman.
There it is. Look at him.
He looks fantastic. There's
majestic.
Yes, majestic. The lighting, I love everything about this scene. The lighting, there's a blue thing going on.
I like the bomber jacket.
Yeah, it's got history to it.
Bring those back, Not the Naugahyde kind, but the real leather.
Did they ever go away?
Are you wearing yours right now?
I've got my action figures here. I'm wearing my bomber jacket with a lining that's like a map of the world.
Nice. See, I've got my Zubaz pants on.
And under the bomber jacket is one of those shirts. The color, like you press like the heat.
Yes.
Yeah. What are those called? I can't remember. Anyway, Batman's cool right now.
There we go. Yeah, we're getting carried away. People are tuning out.
Because it's almost like we've already done this, and
it's for our amusement now.
I know.
Sorry, everybody.
Maybe at some point I'll put up the original take, bad audio and everything, just as a bonus. Because it's listenable, but it's just not great. Oh, I love it. Who are you? And I have read as well that was an ad lib, that the original line was, I am the knight, which, no.
A little heavy.
A little, yeah, and even a little goofy for the, maybe for, it worked in the, maybe like the cartoon version. I could maybe I could see Christian Bale saying that too. Did he say that? He's like, I'm the knight.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm ready for a Colt 45 right about now.
Yeah, you are.
Works every time.
Well, hello, what have we here? And I feel like Billy D got a raw deal with this whole experience, because I think that the plan was originally, he's Harvey Dent. Harvey Dent is Two-Face. I feel like he took the role, maybe I've even heard somewhere, he took the role with the understanding that he was going to, at some point, if it was successful, have the opportunity to play Two-Face. But he never did.
It would seem like the natural evolution of the part, right? If you're gonna knowing that Batman's history and the villain's history, you would think perhaps that his agent might have said, dangled that carrot in front of him. But as we know, it didn't work out that way.
Yeah, and I would have preferred a Billy D Two-Face to the Two-Face we eventually got.
Right.
I'll say that. Not taking a huge, dump on that movie, because I think Batman Forever has a few things in it that I like. I like Val Kilmer. I think he does a decent job. I like Nicole Kidman. By the way, this is Jerry Hall. I believe she was still married to Mick Jagger during this time. I'm pretty sure she was, right?
I believe so.
The one of the supermodels of her day.
Now, Heath, maybe you would know this. Was she just a model, or was she known for being an actress too? Because I don't really recall her other than being a supermodel, right?
I don't remember that either. I remember her being on magazine covers, and I remember her being Mick Jagger's wife. Right, but right. I'm gonna do some quick IMDbing right here and see if what her IMDb page looks like. Oh no, she was in things. She was in 28. She has 28 credits. She was in Free Jack, which was
with her husband, correct?
With Mick, yeah.
And was that Emilio Estevez?
It was. Nice pull.
Yeah.
Nice. David Johansen, also known as Buster Poindexter, right?
Isn't that guy? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. What else was she in? She was in Absolutely Fabulous. She was in,
So Batman, basically, right?
Basically, Free Jack and Batman is what it's kind of looking like.
That's cool, man. Right? I mean,
yeah. She was in Urban Cowboy as Sexy Sister. So
number 1 or number 2?
It doesn't number it, so maybe there was only one Sexy Sister. Oh. But I do love that movie, so next time I watch it, I'll have to, John Travolta and Scott. Oh, what Scott? Why can't I think of his name? The Right Stuff. Scott. He looks like he's made of leather.
Yes.
Anyway.
Man, now you're throwing me.
Yeah. I will also point out while my mind is reeling that Scott Glenn. Good.
Yes.
Scott Glenn. Lieutenant Eckhart is Porkins from Star Wars Episode 4, or just Star Wars if you're old school.
So he's the second Star Wars cameo we've seen already.
Yeah, he is. Good point.
The franchise, at least.
He made a splash when he blew up his X-wing in the Death Star trench run.
No. And I believe Robert, was it Robert Wool?
I think you pronounce it Wool, yeah.
Yeah, he was one of the Jawas as well.
Absolutely. I think that Jack Nicholson looks really cool in this outfit, like this jacket, this coat, that hat.
This ensemble I would wear tomorrow.
Ensemble. Yeah, it's a pretty sweet hat. Sometimes I can wear hats, particularly in the winter, but most of the time you can't really get away with a hat in my part of the country. But man,
I was gonna say, that's, even here, for those people that don't know, I'm in Buffalo, and it gets a little cold here, Yeah, it's a little cold, but I don't see a lot of hats. I see a lot of cold people, but I don't see a lot of hats, which probably explains why. They're cold. They need a hat. They won't be cold.
I like hats. I've always liked hats. Hats are cool. It probably, it probably goes back to Indiana. Not even joking, just being totally serious. I think
really
my love of that kind of thing. Yeah, it probably goes back to Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I buy that. I mean, I think I have such a big forehead that I really can't fit in the hats. I mean, you could literally probably project Avatar on my forehead and get the total IMAX experience and not lose anything. I really feel that way.
Well, how do you fit your head inside of the bat cowl for your cosplay? Your Christian Bale accurate bat suit.
It's it's about a 3-hour ordeal from start to finish.
Yeah,
I get
I
up
think
about 3 hours before everybody else, and yeah.
I think that's longer than Jack Nicholson's makeup job in this movie. All right, so we're about to shout out something here, or at least comment on something, if for no other reason than so we can then tear it down. We're about to get a Bob Kane reference. Bob Kane, I guess he like couldn't be in this movie, or he wanted to be, but I guess that's an actual Bob Kane sketch.
I'm sure that he probably wanted to play Batman in the movie, knowing the history of Bob Kane.
Yeah. Yeah, Bob Kane's got a sordid past. Stealing from, and like in case people don't know, I think most people who are listening to this probably do, but he's taking credit for a lot of other people's work and gotten rich while other people lived in poverty.
Yeah, not good.
There's that documentary. What's the name of that documentary?
Batman and Me, isn't
Batman
it?
and Me. I think that's it. Yeah.
It's on Hulu. I highly recommend it. You'll be very depressed, especially if you're a writer or if you worked in the comic book industry. But yeah, it's Bob Kane took a lot of credit for Batman, which maybe he should have only taken half the credit, if that, while his partner kind of died on a penniless and basically on a mattress, right, in an apartment, and very sad story. So I don't want to be a buzzkill, guys. Sorry, but
yeah, well, especially not while we have Kim Basinger on screen in her first appearance.
Yes, as Vicky Vale.
She's great. I gotta say, she is one of the great things about this movie, I believe.
She's got a lot of moxie, if I can use a nice little word. Moxie. I like that word.
Yeah. And in addition to the moxie, now we're all about calling out strong female roles and things like that. And here we got somebody in 1989 who is on top of the job doing like she's pretty, yeah, she's got moxie. I'll go with your word. She's got a lot of moxie.
Yes. And she was not the original choice, which was actually Sean Young from Blade Runner. But due to an injury, horseback riding accident, she was replaced at the last minute by Kim Basinger. Is that how we're pronouncing it?
Let's go with that.
All right. Just
so
useless tidbit, but
so am I imagining that she dressed up as Catwoman for an audition for Batman Returns and freaked everybody out so much that she basically ruined her entire career?
I vaguely recall that story. I know that story. If it wasn't her, it was somebody. So I'm just gonna go with your take on it because it sounds about right. But I know there was some actress that did that. There was a story behind that. So
yeah, I think it was her.
It could be. I mean, maybe she was regretful that she fell off the horse. Didn't get her chance as Vicky Vale, right? So she's looking for redemption.
Yeah, and I can't remember. I know she's in Ace Ventura, the first Ace Ventura movie, and it's not a good role for someone who wants to be an actress, someone taken seriously. It's not a great role, Ace Ventura. I believe at one point she even has like a. I'm not going to get into it, but she's got like a tuck thing going on. It's just not. It's not. Yeah. It's just sad.
Yeah, speaking of tuck things, I just want to call out while we're at the beginning of the movie, near the beginning, if everybody's watching, pay attention for some phallic imagery. You may see things pop up here and there. That maybe if you're watching now with your eyes, different context, not like when you and I, Heath, when we first saw the movie, I was in the 6th grade. You were what, 4th grade?
I don't even know.
Okay, so around there. We probably didn't notice those things, but now you might. You look at them in a different lens of adulthood. Hold on, I got my action figures ready to fall. Let me grab it.
This is this is Alfred is played by Michael Gough. I believe you pronounce it Gough. For years and years and years, I thought it was Go. It's Gough, but I believe it's Gough, like cough rhymes with cough. But he is a old school horror actor. Probably a lot more than that. He probably did like Shakespeare or something. But a lot of horror fans know him. He's in Horror of Dracula from 1958, I believe. The first Hammer Dracula film, like 1 year after the Hammer Frankenstein movie. He's really good in that. But my favorite of his old school movies is called Horrors of the Black Museum, and he's like a London guy who um, he has this secret museum, and he will do things and take things and kill people and put them in the museum. And it's a really great atmospheric. It's not Hammer. I don't think it's Amicus. I think it's just an independent. I could be wrong, but I think it's just an independent horror movie. But he's really fantastic in it, and I think that is probably what drew Tim Burton to him, to casting him, because Tim Burton obviously loves the old Universal horror, the old Hammer. Um, I kind of feel like Sleepy Hollow is a Hammer movie. Like it's not,
Absolutely.
but he's clearly trying to homage Hammer.
Sure.
It's like the movie that Hammer didn't make.
I feel like Tim Burton is more into Hammer movies and Hammer history than comic book history, right?
Clearly, yeah, clearly. Yeah, because there was a whole thing going around that he did not read any of the comic. Now I understand that somebody like gave him the first year of Batman comics after he'd agreed to make the movie. They're like, hey, you should probably read these, like the 1939 into 1940 Batman comics, just so he could get a look for the visuals of the character, pre-Robin, all that stuff. But he had no history with Batman, which one is crazy to me that a guy growing up in the 60s and the 70s would have no connection to Batman. Um, and
But
then
he's a
two
he's
that,
a very aloof fellow though. He's very aloof. I feel like he probably played with like those Aurora monster model kits,
yeah.
and he was probably drawing and sketching a lot. Like I picture him with like charcoal and sketching, and I don't picture
hmm
him going out too often. Do you? Like he seems like a very much a loner.
I agree with that, but I would say, having been around a lot of that, and
Think it
I,
would he would be drawn to it
I think they
more?
go hand in hand. Yeah, I would think
Yeah,
that the Monster Kid vibe of the model kits and the drawing and all that, that's a comic kid as well. A lot of those guys loved the comics as well because they allowed them to Batman especially was such a, you know, a continuation of that. So I don't, and
absolutely.
when I go to the conventions, like there's like Wonderfest in Louisville, Kentucky. It started as a modeling convention, like a model kit convention, but it is now like they don't have a lot of comics. I don't actually think there are any comic books, but it's a lot of that. It is a lot of the superheroes, Batman, Disney stuff like Haunted Mansion, things like that. Like it all falls into that genre fandom of, you know, horror, whatever. So I would think that he would have been attracted to it, but he clearly wasn't because he never read any Batman. He said he was dyslexic. Eventually,
Right. It was difficult. He couldn't figure out how the panels and the dialogue worked, he said,
but
apparently.
do you buy that?
Mm.
Are comics
Well,
that hard? I don't know.
I don't buy it. No, I don't. But that's what he said. So,
And he
uh,
had a big blow up with Kevin Smith too.
yes, he did.
About because
You
Kevin Smith.
get into that? Explain that?
Yeah, well, especially since you have written for Kevin Smith's website and since you were in that orbit for a while, I think, you know, do you have anything you could
Well, so
add to?
basically, right, we all know that, or most of us know that originally when they were going to do the new Superman movie, that was it Brandon, is it Ralph? How do you pronounce his last name? Ralph?
Ralph, yeah, I think it's Ralph.
Okay, so I think it was that version, right? Eventually
hmm
would become that version. So Tim Burton was attached to bring that to the screen, and they were going to have Nicolas Cage play Superman. And then wasn't it a Kevin Smith script or screenplay that that's where the friction began between.
Yeah, I think
Tim
so. And
Burton.
is this the same screenplay where the executive was like, I want him to fight a giant mechanical spider?
Yes, there's a
Yeah.
very famous Kevin Smith story that he
Yeah.
tells. Yeah, so there was like appearances at Comic Cons where Kevin Smith would wear T-shirts, wouldn't he? Where it said something anti Tim Burton, right? It was like, I don't
I
know,
think
Tim.
Tim Burton had started it though, because he said I would
Oh,
never direct a movie that Kevin Smith wrote or something like that. Or I would never watch a movie that Kevin Smith he basically took it to Kevin Smith first. I think maybe Kevin Smith started it. I'm not
it
sure.
feels like something that would have been great on Twitter if Twitter was around back then.
Yeah. It would have been popular for like at least 2 or 3 days. It would have been all we were talking about.
Yeah, at least maybe 48 hours tops.
By the way, the have you seen I think it was the original animated version of The Death of Superman. They've done it twice now. And in the original, it was the first DC direct to animation movie. Kevin Smith, there's a giant spider that appeared, like a giant mechanical spider, and they got Kevin
Wow.
Smith to be like, "Look at that! It's a giant mechanical spider." Just for the Easter egg of a joke, they went that far. Just for
There's a
that.
there's a great documentary that was made on that Superman, that ill-fated Superman production, and for the life of me, I can't think of it right now, but I highly recommend it. Um,
Yeah, I know what you're
it's like
talking about.
the death and something of Superman, or
Something
but
like that.
I think they do interview Kevin Smith for that documentary. I'm almost positive. Um, but I do want to call attention on that note, talking about production, that this movie sort of began production in at least the legal sense, signing over the papers and getting the rights in 1979. So it took a full 10 years before this hit the screens on June 23rd of 1989.
Yeah, that's
So
crazy.
you can imagine the difference, the shift in tone in the comic book uh, medium, because we're getting things like, Frank Miller's Dark Knight
Dark Knight.
Returns.
Yeah.
Um, The Watchmen came out around that time, didn't it?
Yes, it did. Yeah.
So this would have been prime time for a darker take on the character. Whereas had this thing been greenlit right away and shot, let's say in 1980 or 1981, with somebody like Joe Dante, who was at one time affiliated with the project, we would have seen something probably a lot closer in tone to the Superman movie from the 70s,
hmm
which would have been a very different movie. So in a weird way, this probably worked out for the best, this long gestation period for a movie like this. And he, you'll attest to this, that, this was such a big deal when this thing hit. I mean, the hype leading into it, it's not like today. Uh, I don't want to sound like the old guy, get off my lawn, but now there's a Marvel movie every 3-4 months sometimes. Uh,
Yeah.
for us, our quote unquote Marvel movies, or our comic book movies, were Indiana Jones and the Star Wars movies, and then Batman. I mean, that was
hmm
pretty much all we had going for the longest time. Even through the 90s, there really wasn't much.
Yeah, we had Superman, but Superman had devolved into,
Yeah,
that last, it was like a canon movie. Listen, I love canon. I'm
right.
not knocking canon, but it was not it
It
was
was like,
not the glory that it had once been.
yeah, it was like, was it Nuclear Man or something that he fought? And it was like
Yeah.
almost, yeah, and then, yeah, it definitely became a parody of itself. But this movie was huge when it came
Huge. There's your fist, your backwards
to back.
backwards fist punch thing.
Yes.
Over the shoulder, no looky punch.
So in
That's
order
what
for
I'm gonna
that to
call it.
truly work, you have to slightly bend your wrist, because you want those two knuckles to hit the nose. So you really can't knock anybody out with that. You're going to give them a good gusher. So I'm thinking Batman's probably got some nice foreign object in that gauntlet
It's,
of
it's
or
glow.
whatever.
I bet he does.
Glove, yeah.
I bet those things
He
are just
must.
lined with brass, and then like there's probably a whole plate that goes from his knuckles all the way down to the top of his wrist, and he's
Yeah.
just whacking people left and right with it. That's what I think. These are great scenes where he's like kind of flying, kind of gliding or whatever. I guess he's just kind of gliding, but he looks fantastic. When this came out, even now, we have the Christian Bale Batman. We've come a long way with some of this stuff, even the Ben Affleck Batman, I guess. But for me, some of these shots are just so iconic. Like I never imagined Batman could look that cool.
No.
It looked like it was pulled off the pages of the comics.
Heath, something I just thought of. Later on, Tim Burton did Ed Wood with Johnny Depp, which is a great movie, and that's in black and white. And I wonder what type of feeling we'd get if this was filmed in black and white, given Batman's.
Oh, wow.
How much that would change the feel and tone of this. I'd like to see that.
I would like to see it too. They did that with the Logan movie, the Wolverine movie Logan.
That's right, they did.
Re-released it as Logan Noir, I believe, and then they also did it with Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah, it was becoming a thing there for a while.
Yeah, so I would be very much in favor of that because it
would give it a timeless quality too, right? And this could definitely fit that.
Yeah, because this movie is dripping with 30s and 40s, that Art Deco. Noir kind of tone I'm gonna say, I always feel weird every time I say this, but German expressionism, like there's a lot of that stuff going on visually. So if it was black and white, it'd be even harder to pin down to a certain time and place. And the only black and white Batman that we have, we have the comics. This is the Batman black and white series, but live action or whatever. I think the only thing we have is the actual serials from I think there was 2 in the 40s. I have them somewhere. There's 2 Batman serials, not like breakfast cereal. Well, we're going to talk about the breakfast cereal. Oh, check out that shot. That's fantastic. But the old black and white serials, and they are cool for their time, but you know what though? They're closer to the Batman of the comics than probably. They've got that tone. They've got that kind of dark crime fighter tone that was not present in the Adam West series, which I love the Adam West series, but that was kind of fun and colorful. But those old serials do feel kind of like that comic book vibe.
I've never seen those.
Man.
I'll have to admit it, but I do. I remember seeing them at Toys R Us when Batman came out, and there was just merchandise everywhere. And then somebody probably had the bright idea of, I don't know if those were public domain at some point or what the case was, but I remember seeing VHS tapes of those Batman serials that that you could buy, and being a kid I was looking at it like, oh, black and white and whatever. But I'll have to maybe watch those someday. I don't know if did they ever get a proper DVD release?
They've had a couple of them. I think the current one is I think it's both serials in one package. I'll have to check. I've got it on. Actually, I've got my database.
Is Robin in that too?
He's in one of them, I believe.
Any known villains like Joker or anybody, or is it
No, it was like crime guys, like gangsters.
Jobbers of the week.
Yeah. I'm going through my database seeing if I can find that so I can talk a little bit more about it. But here we go. Gotham City Serials. That's the name of the package. Oh, it's Mill Creek Entertainment. There you go.
Look at that. We love our Mill Creek.
We do. They've been so good to Serial at midnight. So it's Batman, the original 1943 Batman serial, ran 1943, 15 chapters on that one. And then the follow-up was 1949, and it's called Batman and Robin. And it was 15 chapters as well. So, yeah, still in print. Let me see what it's going for right now on Amazon US. Gotham City Serials. It is currently $14.99.
Wow, I'll have to grab that.
Yeah. I'll do a quick blurb of it. Watches mild-mannered Bruce Wayne becomes Batman, the classic superhero, who, with Robin protects Gotham City from the evil schemes of Dr. Taito Daka, packed with adventures involving a radium-powered death ray, a deadly alligator pit, electronic zombies, and even the original Batcave. This Batman 2 disc set is a must-own DVD for fans of the Cape Crusader. And then the sequel, the 1949, says joint superheroes Batman and Robin as they help Commissioner Gordon, who is Lyle Talbot from Plan 9 from Outer Space, battle the Wizard, a villainous Batman.
Look at that Ed Wood tie-in. There
it is. Basically a weather guy wants to control the weather. The old chestnut controlling the weather. Yeah, I recommend him. It's been a while since I watched it, but it's just crazy because at the time when this came out, this was so big. We have to talk about how big this was. This was so big that I think so many companies were just like, what do we have that's related to Batman that we can put out? That's when the original 1966 series went back into syndication, because I feel like it had been off the air for a while.
Yes.
Because I don't remember it when I was younger, but I do remember it after this came out, and it was just like anything related to Batman was back in the limelight.
Right. And to us, that 60s Batman was brand new.
Yes, it was.
And being a younger age, we probably didn't necessarily appreciate the campiness of it. We might have thought it was silly or goofy, especially compared to this. But now, I think you and I both look back at that 60s Batman and like, we're just like, wow, this is great. There's Vincent Price and there's Burgess Meredith and Adam West, of course. And right. I mean,
yeah,
we can appreciate it on a different level.
And even beyond that, so I picked it up on Blu-ray when it came out a couple of years ago, and it got like, in addition to Vincent Price, it's like Otto Preminger, who's a fantastic director, and he would do some acting. Like he's one of the Mr. Freezes. Ido Lupino is in it. So many people. Tallulah Bankhead is a villain in this. I mean, it was like A-list Golden Age Hollywood royalty, basically doing it just for fun. Cesar Romero's Joker. Cesar Romero was a fantastic actor.
Absolutely.
In the 30s and the 40s, and then by the time of of Batman, he was just like, well, there's a whole episode where they have a Batman and the Joker have a surfing competition, and it's just so ridiculous, but it's fun. I don't know that I appreciated it. I know I loved it as a kid, but I don't think that I necessarily picked up on how intentionally campy it was.
Right. Well, I mean, when you see somebody like Sammy Davis Jr., I think that might have been lost on us, like a cameo like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Dick Clark did one.
Yeah, right. I mean, are there any shows like that now that do something like that? Where, I mean, maybe something like an anime, like The Simpsons, right, where they'll have somebody do a special guest voice or whatever. But is there really a show where you get? I mean, Sammy Davis was huge, so like,
oh yeah,
it would have to be like a big name, and all of a sudden, like, oh, I don't know.
By the way, I would recommend.
Great show.
Absolutely, I would recommend on the Sammy Davis tip. Sammy Davis Jr. not in this movie, but PBS
he was,
just
reportedly going to play the Candyman in the sequel, though.
Who can take a rainbow? It's terrible. Listen, babe. No, that doesn't work. I tried it.
That'll bring a tear to a glass eye if I say something.
PBS in the States just did an American Masters of Sammy Davis Jr. and it's fantastic. I know for a while, like I think it's on Roku still. It might still be up, but I recommend it. This is just the side note, just a little freebie. We got to talk about Jack Palance because he's big in this movie. I mean, Jack Palance is big in everything. I don't know that he does subtle performances, but I feel like he's even bigger in this with the heavy breathing and the
right. And he is. This was for people that weren't really paying attention for when this movie was out. This was sort of like a career resurgence, like a last act for him, because he got a lot of what's the word I'm looking for, Heath, when he was in City Slickers, and then he did the one-arm push-up at the Academy Awards, and it was like Jack Palance fever all of a sudden. It was like everywhere you looked, you saw this guy, and it, I remember asking my dad, like, who is this old guy? And he's this actor from, I didn't realize like the history that this actor had, and he had what a remarkable career that he had.
Didn't he end up at this time, or maybe shortly after this, hosting Ripley's Believe It? It was like Ripley's Believe It. or not. But they brought it back. Like that was a '70s series, right? And they brought it back
Yeah, it was
for
probably
a
late
short-lived
70s.
revival. Yeah, they brought it back though in the early '90s or the late. It was around this time when he could do no wrong. This is our big reveal of the Joker. I've always wondered what the blue stuff is
I was
on
going
his
to
neck.
ask you that. Is that like a hickey, but like a...
I've always wondered what that is because it doesn't. Nothing else is blue, but yeah, every time, and it's such a. I mean, they're not hiding it either. It's just like right there. It's like if they were trying to hide it, they would have shot from a different angle, maybe, or they. I don't know. And then Jack Nicholson also is in a different. He's on a different planet.
Which is pretty typical of that era of Jack.
Yeah.
At least on screen, it's pretty typical, and off screen, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He was a. I think maybe he still is a party animal. I like this because like Bruce can't sleep, so he's like, I'm just gonna.
I feel like this is me every night. I really do. Like I hang. I like.
You hang? Okay.
That scene where he's hanging. Yeah. Oh man, I wanted one of those so badly. Like I thought it was so cool. Like wow, you could hang like a bat, and it's like an exercise. Like do people do that? I think I saw it in like an Air Mall catalog once. Honestly.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I think I saw that one time, and
What is the point of this? Like, what does it do?
I don't know. I mean, I think today what you would use it for, because I've seen them at the gym where I've seen guys strap their legs in and they'll do sit-ups or different types of ab exercises, and it looks goofy as all get out when you see it in the gym because you're like, oh, look at that guy, like starve for attention. Okay, but
he's the guy that's going like, Hurrah! He's like very vocally doing his reps so everybody looks at him.
Yeah, taking Instagram photos in the mirror and. Come on. Pal.
What is Nicholson doing here though? Because he's like, whoop, whoop, whoop. what is that? And then he just starts laughing. I mean, I like it. It's crazy, but like, was there direction for that? He's just like, Tim Burton's like, if you could do like could you go like or something like that, that'd be really good for the character. I've lost. It's like he's New York now. Also.
I think he was probably getting early box office estimates on how much he was going to make off of this movie.
Yeah, he was shopping for boats and
I think he was, yeah.
Are we talking about Burton or Nicholson?
Nicholson. He probably read that Wall Street Journal right there and was going, whoop, all this money I'm going to make.
Whoop, whoop, boats, mansions, boats, mansions. Second homes in Florida. I heard 60 million is what he made off of this movie. Back end deal.
He was an early believer in Burton and Batman. He was smart enough to know that this movie, in his, ultimate infinite wisdom, was going to make a boatload of cash. And boy, was he right. He bet on the bat and he won big time.
Yeah, and
but he was a get, Heath. He was a big deal to have in that movie because it added a certain level of there was a curiosity factor because now suddenly you're taking this comic book movie and whereas the Superman movie had Brando, right? Not in a huge role, but you had Marlon Brando in Superman, and now we're gonna like up the ante. That's a great scene. Look at that. But now we're gonna up the ante and have Nicholson as the main villain, and Nicholson was no slouch. It's not like he was, desperate for a role or
no, he was still doing really well at this time too. I mean, he'd done. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Easy Rider, Chinatown. But I was thinking in my head, I was like, when was Prizzi's Honor? Because that movie, I think Angelica Houston, yeah, I think she won an Oscar for that movie. It was 85, so he was still very relevant. It's not like he was on his way down.
No, and he had quite a few hits after this as well. He won the Oscar for As Good as It Gets, which would have been around 96, maybe
I'm gonna
97.
say 97. I think that was the 98 Academy Awards, but I'm
Okay.
not sure. I'm just pulling that.
So it
Pulling that.
just goes to show you though that he had staying power, that he was not sitting on his laurels, and um, Michael Keaton was a very controversial casting decision for a lot of people because they saw him as this comedian, which he's a very fine dramatic actor, which we've seen since then, and we even saw a lot of us that were fans of Michael Keaton saw before that.
Mm-hmm.
But people were going, Michael Keaton, Batman, what?
The
Um,
Beetlejuice guy,
the Beetlejuice guy,
Mr.
right?
Mom.
Mr. Mom, and then suddenly he's Batman, and I think this was a way to sort of calm people down a little bit. Like, don't worry. Look, even if Michael Keaton's not your cup of tea, you're gonna get Jack Nicholson. It's
Yeah.
he's adding some credibility and some gravitas, right? Which uh he added a lot to the movie. But Michael
Should I?
Keaton, that's no slight on Michael Keaton either.
No, he's fantastic too. We'll talk about Michael Keaton definitely. Should I talk about the makeup thing really quick while we're looking at
Please,
it?
absolutely.
The way that I read that they did this makeup for Nicholson is because you have his flesh and then white makeup and then flesh colored makeup on top of the white makeup. And the only practical way they could figure out to do it was so they painted his face white with the normal makeup, and then they put a layer of silicone, like liquid jelly silicone, over his face, like on top of that, and then they powdered this flesh makeup on top of that, and they had to be very careful so it wouldn't run or streak. So they powdered it, and then they airbrush it, and then they dry it, and then his cloth like his handkerchief that he wipes his face with, is doused in isopropyl alcohol. And when he wipes it away, it clears the silicone, but it doesn't go all the way through to the. It doesn't break the white makeup. So very cool. I guess now they'd probably just do it with CGI or something like that.
But
But
that's a lot. That shows you the dedication that he did have for playing the Joker. He was taking it seriously, the part.
yes, more
He
so than
was not
Brando
phoning
was.
it. Right.
Yeah.
And look at this guy. I mean, talk about playing it like totally method. I mean,
This always scared me so bad. So this scene, I saw this. I did not see this movie in the theater because I think my parents said I was like 9 when this came out. And they didn't want me to see it. They weren't sure about it. I think really they didn't want to have to go check it out first. I think that's what it came down to. So I ended up seeing it at a friend's house on video. Like the video cassette had just come out, and they were like, Heath, this is gross. Like, because I was the kid who was like, is there anything gross in this movie? And they're like, yeah, you might want to turn your head at this part. And so I had turned my head, and obviously like the noises of it and everything, and you just hear like the buzzer, and the guy's like, whoa, so much worse than the imagery that we actually get on the screen. Total Hitchcock. I Hitchcocked myself.
absolutely. And it's funny when you say that though. We were talking about Indiana Jones earlier, and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
Oh,
There's a lot more graphic um,
absolutely.
images and scenes in there than anything compared to this. But I'm sure you probably saw Indiana Jones as soon as you could, right? In Temple of Doom.
I think Temple of the Doom. Temple of the Doom. I think it was the last one that I saw of the original 3, because I don't know why. I don't remember why that was. I remember.
You've seen them since though.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. I don't want any spoilers or anything for you.
He's anthropologist, I believe. I think he's into anthropology, and he's
Yeah, I mean
studies
that's
people and their traditions, something like that. No, no, I mean, it's legit. Indiana Jones is one of my favorite properties of all time. I love Indiana Jones. I defend Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I do.
really
I'm that guy. I defend it.
you.
Now, I don't
Wow,
say it's
you're
as
that guy.
good. It does. I don't think that they should have made it. I don't think you should make any sequel to a movie that's been 20 years removed or 15 or whatever. But I think that there's a lot of cool stuff in that movie. I would like to call attention to the hotel on the screen, because we will see this hotel 115 more times in this movie. But no, Temple of Doom was the last one that I came to, I believe. And I can go one further. I bought the Temple of Doom VHS from McDonald's for I think $4.99 because in the early 90s, 91,
Yes.
I want to say, they were running a promotion where you could just pick them up. Like, hey, you go get your number 3 extra value meal. Pick up Indiana Jones for $4.99 on VHS.
I would do that today if I could, if they were selling that.
I would too. I've already have them, but I'd buy them again for $4.99. Just give them to the mailman or
Right.
just pass them around. But yeah, that was one as well with the gory, the grossed out gags. And you're right, like they were way worse than.
They're ripping hearts out of chests.
Yeah. I'm Num Shabak.
That's the most out of shape mime I've ever seen. I mean, sorry. I mean, the stripes are not helping you.
No, he's got to go vertical, not horizontal stripes.
Yeah.
Too many baguettes. You know, Bruce Wayne or Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne, he's always got this expression on his face. He's definitely not Mr. Mom here. He's doing his own thing. He's playing he's the cerebral assassin before Triple H. Michael Keaton was the original cerebral assassin.
There's Bob.
You got anything to say about Bob?
Bob the goon or the henchman?
Well, it's Bob the Goon, right? His action figure was Bob the Goon, I believe.
Bob the Goon. That's right. I always screw it up, but yeah, I just, as I mentioned, one other time, I just thought maybe he wasn't doing it for me. He wasn't somebody that I would believe that the Joker would have in his inner circle. I think the way I put it before was the Destro to his Cobra Commander.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he would be more like.
What would you say?
I'm thinking low on the Cobra.
I know. I'm trying to think who.
It was like Tomax and Zaymond are still too cool. Zartan is still way too cool.
Oh, way too cool.
Maybe that guy that came with the crocodile, like the Croc Master guy.
No, a Croc Master was great.
Still too cool? Okay.
Yeah, because he had those crocodile boots on.
He did, yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to go back to that one. I feel kind of weird, though, that I feel like Bruce Wayne would be swarmed by report. I just don't see somebody like Bruce Wayne just standing there casually watching.
Yeah, like they don't know who he is. Like he's one of the biggest millionaires of.
It would be like if Mark Cuban showed up at somebody else's press conference. You mean to tell me that you're not going to have TMZ all over that?
Yeah, that's a good point. I like this boxing glove gimmick. Yes. All of this feels totally out of the 1966 series to me. And I've suggested that I think Bob just serves a role for the Joker, somebody to talk to, so he can do these monologues like, what kind of a world do we live in where a man dresses up as a bat? I think he's basically there just to be talked to. He doesn't say a lot. Bob speaks very few words in this movie.
He's almost silent, Bob.
Oh, look at that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I'm envious of that library. Look at that.
Ooh. I am too. What do you think? He probably has never read any of those.
Well,
I don't know. He is the world's greatest detective.
Probably has a copy of Bubba Hotep number 5 in there. I would imagine if he's never read it. Hopefully.
I like that. That was fantastic. And the novel, he probably has the original Lansdale novel as well. By the way, here's a Lansdale connection.
Yes.
Speaking about how they cranked out so many tie-ins and so many. We got to talk about the cereal, the action figures, all that stuff. But there was a series of books, tie-in books, called The Further Adventures of Batman. There were 3 numbered volumes, and then they did a Joker, The Further Adventures of the Joker, I believe. And Lansdale has a short story. His Subway Jack story got printed. I don't know if he wrote it he might have written it for that book. I'm not sure.
He's a huge fan.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Was there?
I mean, that's it. I mean, that's the point.
Well, I was going to add too that he also wrote a standalone novel by choice. This was not something that he actually told his agent, and I forget the name of it. It's something. It's like a play on words with engines. It's supposed
Engines of Destruction, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he actually told his agent, I want to write a Batman book. And a lot of times people do media tie-ins or licensed property because you're sort of working your way up the food chain.
Hmm.
And for him, he was like, no, 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 I love this. He loves Batman. He told me he's a DC guy because I admitted to him that I was a Marvel guy. I was a Marvel zombie, and
That was it between you guys.
yeah, then it was on. Then gloves came off.
He told you he was a DC guy?
Oh yeah, he told me he is a DC guy, and I think that I'm not sure why I always stuck to Marvel, um, but it just felt like my thing. I don't know if it felt if DC was a little more cerebral or if it was, which that's not, I don't want to say that, but it felt like to me I could jump into Marvel easier. There
Hmm.
were there were jumping on points for certain titles, of course, but DC felt to me like it had such a huge history that I would just never quite grasp it, and I had missed the boat. I was just Marvel was my thing.
But
Uh,
you know what's weird now? And I don't want to like get us sidetracked too much, but that's kind of what's happened with Marvel now because there's so much history and there's so many
mhm.
legacy characters, and you've got like Tony Stark isn't Iron Man, and then Tony Stark's back as being Iron Man, but then he's not, and then like it's trying to get it. Like people will ask me, Heath, I like your videos, I like your whatever. Can you recommend a good place to jump on to such and such? And it is a hard question to answer now because some of these characters, like, how do you recommend a jumping on point for the X-Men?
It's so difficult, and they have every opportunity because now these are the biggest movies in the world. You have these gateway drugs. Before it was you read the comics and then you see the cartoon, or you read the comics and then you buy the toys, or you read the comics and then you maybe go to a movie. Now you have all these movies, and then you go to the theme park and you have all these movies, and
Mm-hmm.
then the comics are the last thing on that chain that people are doing, and it's almost by design because, like you said, it's so difficult. The movies are such a perfect way to get into it and so accessible, and you just don't get that with the comics anymore. It's tough, and they're
Yeah.
not exactly inexpensive either, right? They're running about $4.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know,
Sometimes shipped twice a month, so you're asking $8 for. And I remember the last time I walked away from monthly comics, which was a year and a half ago or so. There were 13 X-Men titles every month. I
mm,
counted 13 X-Men titles. I was like, I'm interested in reading these, but I
you need
can't
a
do
second
that.
mortgage.
Yeah, for real. Um, so did you read Batman and like around this
Well,
time? Were you reading Batman?
yes, I do remember picking up on Batman, and I want to say maybe Kelly Jones was doing it at the time,
Okay.
or at least the covers,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed it. I loved it. Anything I could get my hands on. I had mentioned to you previously in a discussion that I even read the novelization
Hmm.
leading up to this because it was like just seeing someone in that costume. It was amazing, and I was doing my final exams in the sixth grade, and I would race to finish the exam just so because I knew all the other kids would still be taking their exam, and the teacher would do something and stay quiet. So I would have that book in my desk, and as soon as I finished that exam, I would pop open that book and read another chapter and another chapter. And she eventually came over to me and said, "What are you reading?" And I showed her the book, and she flipped through it a little bit, and I remember she raised an eyebrow, like, this is uh this is not the 60s Batman, is it? And I was like, no, it's not. But yeah, I was into Batman from that point forward.
I read the novelization too. I guess around the same. I didn't read it before. I read it after, but it wasn't long after because it was still in a store. We'd gone to a bookstore. Like my parents and I had gone out for dinner or something one night. We had gone to this bookstore and they had it. I was like, "Can I have this?" And they bought it for me. And I feel like I had read it like within a day. Because
Yeah.
back then you'd knock something out. I specifically remember the Rambo 3 novelization, picking it up from a used bookstore on a Saturday morning, and then taking it back to the house. And my parents were like, we're going shopping for like home renovations or something. Like they were looking for like, we're gonna look at wallpaper, we're gonna look at Whatever. Do you want to come with us? And I was like, yeah, I got this book. I'll read this book. And I read the Rambo 3 novelization in an afternoon while we were out. Like when we got back to the house, I was done. So you could do that when you were a kid because you had time and you didn't have anything else you had to do.
Yeah.
I specifically remember reading that novel, the Batman novelization, and loving it. And I haven't read it since, but I probably should. I have it.
I bought a copy for nostalgia purposes.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Have
how
you
much
revisited it?
No, I have not, but
Yeah.
I will one day. It's here on the shelf. But
Craig Shaw Gardner, I believe, is the writer of it.
Okay, all right.
Just to shout him out. Now,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say there's this weird plot of like the Joker's messing around with chemicals, and it's these weird chemical combinations that are killing people. And that feels old school. Even that scene we were talking over, there's a scene where they're like in it's the Joker's chemical warehouse, I guess, and there's this factory, like a factory conveyor belt, and there's all these green, these green bottles going by, and he's like, "Ship them all!" They just feel so of the '60s. That does not feel like as gritty as this movie can feel. Sometimes it feels like I always thought, when I watched it, I was like, "Oh man, this is like a dark Batman. This is like Frank Miller come to life." It's really not. There's a lot of stuff in here that's it's very campy. It's aged very way more campy than I think it read at the time. But you go back and you watch this, some of the stuff is just so silly.
Right. Well, it's that that we're watching it here in 2019, but also don't forget too that we were much younger when we saw it, and it was, it was cool. It was It was cutting edge.
This is what was happening, man. And
it influenced comics because comics, there was this weird synergy going on where, we mentioned Watchmen and we mentioned, Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns, and don't forget there was, Punisher, and suddenly you're starting to see that shift in the comics where, eventually that would lead to like the Vertigo imprint in DC with Sandman and then Preacher and that anti-hero, that became such a huge thing in the 90s that it was almost like, Venom, which was a huge blockbuster last year, coincidentally. But, you would see Venom more than you'd see Spider-Man because you could not get enough. It was like Venom and Wolverine and a little bit of Gambit maybe later on. But.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good point. And that darkness was influencing everything. You mentioned Kelly Jones, and I wanted to make sure I was thinking of the right thing, so I pulled them up. I specifically remember that era of Batman. That was like leading into the Nightfall era of Batman as well, which is one of my favorite Batman storylines to this day. But his covers specifically, he redesigned Deadman. I remember he did a stint on Deadman, and he brought him up to speed. Made him kind of current looking, but like he was the guy that he brought like these really long ears.
Yes. Those capes, almost they were almost like the Todd McFarlane Spawn capes, but it was just so that gothic
whatever it is always it's the coolest, man. Like I still resonate so much with that late 80s early 90s style of art. And I think, if I have to, I love Adam West. You have asked me before. You asked me in take one of the commentary.
Yes.
If I could have lunch with anybody, any of the Batman actors, who would it be? And I said it'd be Adam West. That's for Adam West because I think Adam West has the most. I mean, he defined Batman. He was Batman for 20 years until Michael Keaton came along. But I think my favorite Batman on screen is Michael Keaton.
Who do you think people most identify with the role now as?
I think Christian Bale.
You do? Just because it's the most recent?
Well, Ben Affleck's the most recent.
Oh, you're right. Yes.
But people really seem to connect to those Nolan movies, which I like the Nolan movie. Well, I like some of the Nolan movies.
You like them more than I do, if I recall, because I've told you before that I really love performances in the movies. But as a whole, I would much rather take this Batman and Batman Returns.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Batman, I know you love Batman Returns, and uh, it wasn't exactly my jam back in the day. Um, I was infatuated with this movie, so anything would have been pale in comparison.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, and I do respect Christopher Nolan's trilogy, um, but I think you know uh, there's just something about these Tim Burton movies, and let's make no mistake about it, they are definitely Tim Burton movies.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think there's anybody saying Batman Forever is my jam or Batman and Robin is my jam. Those those felt aged the day they came out. They felt wrong.
Yeah. I specifically remember, again, I remember going to see, by the time Batman Forever came out, not Batman Forever, the last Batman and Robin, by the time the fourth of these came out, I was old enough to drive. I went to the theater to see Batman and Robin, and then wrestled with it for the rest of the day, all into the night. I was like, I don't understand, because I love Batman and I do not like that movie. How can this be? How can there be a Batman movie out that it's that early thing, because you're young enough that you have identity. Like I think we see it sometimes now with Star Wars. Like, people put their identities into these properties that they love, and then there comes a point when that property kind of leaves you and goes and does its own thing. And you're like, well,
Well
I don't
said.
like this thing. What'd you say?
That's very well said. Yeah, I mean that happened with the Star Wars movies. With most recently, I remember talking to a writer who told me, what was the name of the very last Star Wars movie?
The Last Jedi,
The Last Jedi. And I remember
or
people saying,
Solo: A Star Wars Story? Which?
no, well, no, the actual
Okay, yeah,
part of
it
the
was.
trilogy, The Last Jedi. Yeah,
Yeah,
and I remember people, that's not my Luke. Like,
right.
whoa, wait a minute here. Like, and that's not the Luke I grew up with. It's like,
Hmm.
whoa, there was a lot of people that didn't agree. Well, even Mark Hamill himself,
Right.
apparently. But that's,
Well, I gotta tell you, he's still in the press circuit now. We're dating this, but that's okay. He's on the press circuit now, and like things are coming out about the next one, the final chapter, episode 9, and it doesn't really sound like he's on board with that either, because he's gonna be in it. He's signed. Um, so it continues, like companies, we see these, they'll take a property in a different direction. And if you like I identified with these movies so much, I loved them so much.
right.
And I guess it was slipping a little bit with Batman Forever. I didn't love Batman Forever as much as, I mean, maybe I did at the time. I'm not sure, but I feel like even then I knew, like, well, Batman Forever is good, but it's not as great as the Tim Burton ones. I miss Tim Burton, but by the time of the fourth one, I was just like, God, like, what happened? This is not for me anymore. Um,
I
but
felt, I just felt like Batman Forever, we're definitely getting a complete tonal shift because they're doing, okay, we're going to do the opposite of Tim Burton. We're going to, instead of the dark, we're going to go to with the light.
Mhm.
And Val Kilmer was huge at that time. Um, and Jim Carrey was huge at that time. And I felt like, okay, there's enough goodwill there where I'm going to give it a shot, right? And there was the big controversy with the bat nipples, and that was like the first indication where it's like, ooh, something different's going on here. And then by the time we got to Batman and Robin, I don't know about you, but I just was like, George Clooney was boring to me
Mhm.
in the role. Like, it just felt like bland and
Yeah,
a bit too vanilla. And of course, Schwarzenegger was huge. He gets top billing in the film, um, which is interesting. But that was definitely if not the beginning of the end, it may have been the end
yeah,
for a good while. And sort of to bring it in back, tie it in. Speaking of Mark Hamill, of course, we all know him as the voice of the Joker in the
mhm.
animated series, and very iconic
Absolutely.
voice actor.
Yeah, I think he's my favorite interpretation of the Joker. I mean, listen, I have love for all the different. I love Cesar Romero. I love Jack Nicholson's Joker, Heath Ledger's Joker, but Mark Hamill's animated version, like his what he brings to the Joker, that really feels like when I think of the Joker, when I read comics, That's the voice that I hear now.
Really?
As with Kevin Conroy's Batman, that's the voice that I hear for Batman in my head now.
I agree with you on the Bat voice. Kevin Conroy. That's Joker. It depends on who's writing it. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like who's writing that shifts what I hear in my head.
Well, and I don't know your video game history, but in the Arkham games, Mark Hamill was, again, Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill reprised their roles up until just a few years ago. Three of them, I think they did together. Um, I'm trying to remember, it may have been, yeah, it was Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and then Arkham Knight. I believe Hamill was back for that one too. But so even up until just a few years ago, I'm still getting Mark Hamill as the Joker. And then they did. Did you ever see the animated adaptation of The Killing Joke?
No, somebody had told me to steer clear of that, and maybe you can convince me otherwise. But was that bad info that I got to kind of steer clear of it?
Well, it's funny because half of it is a direct adaptation of The Killing Joke with a musical number from Mark Hamill as the Joker, which I actually really like.
Hmm.
And then the other half is kind of created for the movie, and I don't really feel like that works, and it gets rapey, and there's it's weird. Um, well, that you could argue that the comic gets kind of rapey too. I'm not sure what happens off panel. You know what? The more that I'm thinking about it, I think the comic is pretty rapey too. But there's this whole subplot with like Batman and Batgirl and like Barbara Gordon Batgirl, and
Hmm.
it feels weird, and it's not from the comic, and it just I don't think it was a good idea. But once they get into the actual Killing Joke, which starts like 30 minutes in, it's pretty cool because you get to do like Mark Hamill gets to deliver some fantastic material. There's some really good Joker monologues in there from the pen of Frank Miller, or from the pen of Alan Moore. So it's some of it's worth that part is worth it. I can't recommend the whole thing, but I just brought it up to say that he's still involved with the character.
He's still your Joker.
He's still my Joker. Yeah.
He's still my Luke.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Um, but yeah, it's an interesting discussion about the whole Christopher Nolan thing because those movies feel rooted in our reality, and I think that was what Nolan intended to do, is to set Batman in our reality. And these movies that we're watching, Tim Burton's Batman does not feel rooted in reality. It feels rooted in a comic book. Um, it's a soundstage. This entire movie is filmed on a soundstage, and it feels like it. It doesn't feel like a real place. It's matte paintings and a set. Almost feels kind of like a stage play at times because it's so set bound. But that's what I like about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that Dick Tracy a year later tried to do the same thing, and it did not have the same results.
No, it did not. It was supposed to be that summer's quote unquote Batman, that summer's Batman, and it, for one reason or another, it just did not resonate with the public like this movie did.
Well, everybody loves Batman. I don't know a whole lot of people who have affection for Dick Tracy. Certainly not kids. Kids don't know Dick Tracy.
Well, it had a lot going for it in the sense that, again, you had an A-list actor, Warren Beatty. You had Madonna, who was huge at that time.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. Kids probably, most likely, were not familiar with Dick Tracy. I don't even think kids are familiar with Dick Tracy now.
No.
But
it made me familiar with Dick Tracy. I definitely chased. I got the comics. Like there was I think it was the Case Files of Dick Tracy. It was a hardcover book with a blue.
Yep, I had
cover.
it.
Yeah, I still have it. Yeah, it made me go back and check some of that stuff out. Those comics were crazy violent too. Like people got shot in the head.
Yes.
Crazy.
IDW has reprinted all of them too.
I had the first few, and then it got too expensive for me, and I had to bail. I didn't realize how many years of a commitment I was getting into when I signed up for that.
Oh boy, yeah, it's a commitment. It's at what point do I end? That collector in me.
Yeah,
you can relate.
Absolutely. How about this? You know what? The Batmobile. We haven't talked at all about the Batmobile.
My favorite Batmobile.
My favorite Batmobile too. Look at it. Sleek and black. And this shot is in like every Tim Burton movie ever.
Right, right. There's the Headless Horseman coming up behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And that Batmobile is definitely taking a bit of a, let's say the design may have been influenced by the stealth bomber, which was a big deal at that time with, well, Desert Storm was a few years after this, wasn't it? But
Yeah.
but the stealth bomber, I felt like, I don't know, I felt like that was part of that
People
time
had
frame.
pictures of the stealth bomber on they had posters of it on their wall.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
it was a
wait, are
car.
you outside my window right now?
You have a
Creepy.
picture of a stealth bomber. You have the Farrah Fawcett poster next to it, and then you have Wham. Why do you have a poster of Wham? That seems like an interesting choice. No, but people did. Like they had you'd have a Ferrari poster, or whatever. But people had posters of the stealth bomber. Like it was like, oh, that's my dream ride, man. Yeah, one of these days. One of these days.
I felt like the girls had Lisa Frank posters,
Uh-huh.
and we had Ferrari posters, or maybe a Hulkamania poster or something.
Oh yeah.
Look at that though. That's still, I mean, it's gorgeous.
It has aged very well too. For me, at least, that's a beautiful Batmobile.
I mean, there's no place to put your luggage, no place to put your shopping bags. It's not really practical, but yeah, I would drive that all day.
Yeah. Maybe there's compartments we don't know about. And then, of course, the unfortunate thing is because this Batmobile is so cool, they felt like they had to continue to improve it and to top it. And I think at one point in the next movie, the next movie, like it comes apart and then there's
it comes apart.
Bat
she's
pod.
the alley, right? It goes through an alley or something.
And then in the third one, I think it goes up the side of a wall. It's just too much. And then maybe Nolan wisely, by grounding his in reality, it's just like a tank.
It was
that
like
works, I suppose.
Between a tank and a Humvee kind of vibe to it.
Yeah, it feels very militaristic, but I like this. It's got the wings and it's got the curves, and it just feels bat-like. It feels like a Batmobile.
Heath, do you mind? You want to pass me that bottle of scope?
Yeah, there's a bottle of scope on the desk, his workstation.
Which you figured out why. I was totally clueless. I was just going with the fact that maybe he was preparing to have a late night with Vicky Vale, but you wisely pointed out the reason was.
Well, I think it's because he's trying to crack the code of the Joker's scheme. There's scope. There's like toothpaste. There's, I don't know. Maybe he's just really into hygiene.
Maybe he wants to make sure it's not tested on animals or something. I don't know. It just feels like.
Was this tested on bats?
It's very blatant, though. It's just definitely.
That's right there.
They want us to see it.
He doesn't. It's not like Wayne's World though, where he's like, "Do you mind?
Subway?
Do you mind if I freshen my breath with this scope?"
I thought for some reason they ate a Subway sandwich. What was that from?
I think they do. No, I think that. And
or was that an Adam Sandler movie?
I don't remember that, but I know
Gilmore.
Yes, that's it. Happy Gilmore Subway sandwiches. That's it. Look at that, the scope right there on the desk. But yeah, I think he's trying to crack the Joker's chemical code to figure out how all these people are getting poisoned, because it's a combination of chemicals in everyday products. But I kind of dislike the idea better that he's into hygiene.
She's not very comfortable on that bed. Let me just say right now.
No, she probably has a headache, the same kind of headache that he has when he hangs upside down.
Yes.
For too long. See, that would be my thing, is like I would think that after about 30 seconds of hanging upside down, you get like there's no blood left in your body. It's all in your head. No?
It's supposed to be great for your stretching out your vertebrae.
Yeah, okay.
Things like that. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's like a DDP yoga type thing, but
maybe so. Diamond cutter, bro.
Bang.
I kind of want to try one of those out. I don't know where I would or where I could, but here's our hotel. There's the hotel again.
Probably the 8th time at least.
Yeah.
You could still buy magazines back then. Look at
that. Trent wasn't dead at the time of this movie. So
apparently though, judging by the complexion of this gentleman, not only is he not using makeup, but apparently your complexion and your whole physical appearance just goes to hell. You can't
Yeah.
use that. What? They're not using any soap? Is that the deal?
I think that's the deal. They're not using any health like personal products.
Wow.
So everyone just looks like they're from the 70s now.
But he shaved.
Who?
The
The
reporter.
No, he's got like lots of stubble on his face.
Well, wouldn't he have like a beard by this point? Like,
I
wouldn't it
mean,
be?
he had a few
I mean,
days worth of.
stubble more than, yeah, I guess.
I don't think he's been shaving, but I
See,
don't
if it
want to
was
stop the
me, like,
rewind.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have had, like, it takes me at least 6 months to even get 5 o'clock shadow, you know?
Well, you would have been fine then. You
Yeah.
don't wear deodorant anyway, and you haven't brushed your teeth since.
Well, come on, that's between you and me.
Too
That-
far. Sorry, too far.
The bad nipples.
Now I'm gonna now I'm gonna say I'm gonna do it respectfully and tastefully. Kim Basinger is gorgeous.
See, you always take the high road,
Yeah.
and
But you
I think she's, yeah.
just make the Looney Tunes
Well,
wolf,
no,
wolf face.
yeah, and no, I mean, it really, she does. Like, she's got that braid
Yeah.
in her hair, and you could see why he would be chasing after her. You know,
Yeah,
it's not.
right.
She's smart. She's got that moxie. She's
Moxie.
gorgeous. Yeah, she's gorgeous. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think I told you this last time, but I collected the trading cards when this came out, and she was one of the ones that it was that shot, her answering the door.
yeah.
It's like a still, like a production still. And I needed that card, and I specifically remember when I got it, I traded something for it, and I got that card, and I was like, yes. And she's
It
just so
said,
pretty.
I read the back of it, and it said to him, it said, "You can be my father figure," and then he said, "No, I'll be your Mr. Mom." You're
Well
welcome.
done.
Yeah, thank you.
Well done.
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, being that this is Serial at Midnight,
Mhm.
I really want to go back and talk about the Bat cereal that
Yeah.
was out at this time, because when you and I had first talked, I had told you a story about my mother who had saved all the box tops for me
Mhm.
and sent away for a T-shirt with the Batman logo that was a hologram, and of course, once you washed it one time, it was like washing a baseball card essentially, where it's going to come out wrinkled, and not a wise move. But I also do remember at one point, Ralston, the brand of cereal, there was a Bat Bank that came
Uh-huh.
cellophaned or whatever to the box, and how do you go down a cereal aisle? I mean, that's what a toy that is, right? You don't even have to look inside the box. And as a kid, I'm thinking like, I need this. Like, there was no question. Like, I needed that Bat Bank, and the cereal was great. It was a great tasting cereal.
It was. It reminded me of it was like a Captain Crunch kind of a thing, wasn't it?
Without the
Without
berries,
just the puffed whatever,
the,
puffed
the
wheat
yellow,
or
the yellow,
yeah, the yellow stuff.
the yellow sugar. But
I had that bank forever too. I remember it
remember
was
it?
in
Yeah.
like I loved that bank, and it was like because it was like in
Like his
that.
bust. It was like his bust, right?
Yeah, it was. It was from the waist up, and in that era, it was like having a statue of something. It was like having your own
Yeah.
little Batman bust.
Forget about Sideshow Collectibles. We had
That's right.
cereal and we had the Bat Bust.
And it was free. That was the best
Free.
part, is it
And
was
I'm
free.
thinking to myself, as a kid, I remember telling my mom, like, we got to grab one of these now because people are just going to be starting to steal these right off the boxes. Like, it was just, as a kid, you're just thinking, like, whoa, I've hit the jackpot.
To this day, still, I need to get another one because I don't know what happened to my original. It probably got thrown away if I had to guess, which is sad. But
The bank.
they're all over eBay.
Really?
Sometimes you could even buy like a box, the sealed, cellophane sealed everything, because people were buying them as collectibles.
Yeah.
So you can still buy on eBay a sealed box of cereal with the bank cellophane to it, unopened from 30 years ago, for like $15 or $20 or something like that. So I might have to.
That would be a great video, actually.
Eating 30-year-old cereal, and then
I wonder if it would taste better than the churros that you had, the Cinnamon Toast Crunch churros.
It wouldn't have to work very hard to be better than those. I didn't like those.
Yeah, you said they were a bit soggy, was it?
Yeah, it was the shape. The shape of those just ruins everything. Like, it made it thick and like chewy. Like, you don't want cereal to be chewy. Okay. So I know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
I know about this guy. I know Jack. Like, he's basically telling him his story. He's tipping himself here. He's tipping his hand here. Like, I know who you are. And then he says, there's this whole thing about never rub another man's rhubarb, which I'm assuming that's that's one of your phallic references right there.
Well, yeah, not one of mine, but one of theirs, sure.
You wrote this movie and you put
Sam Hamm, Mr. Sam Hamm.
Sam Hamm. Like, what is rhubarb? I don't even know what rhubarb looks. I'm looking up rhubarb as we speak. I'm just gonna get tons of phallic imagery now. Rhubarb does not look like, it's not a phallic image.
It doesn't look like a bat. Never mind.
It looks like, well, it's celery. It looks like celery.
Rhubarb pies, right? Rhubarb pies.
Yeah, which I've never had. I don't know if that's.
I think it's like it almost tastes like a strawberry type.
Oh, well, that sounds nice.
Yeah. We should have like pies at midnight.
I'm into it.
It'd be like a spin-off. Like, I got my own show finally. It would be, after all these months of me begging you, Heath, I started my own YouTube channel. It's Pies at Midnight. Deal with it.
I mean, you've done it here in front of everybody, so if it doesn't happen, like, it has to happen now. So.
Oh man.
Pies at midnight.
That would be a great, yeah.
And each video should end with you getting a pie in the face.
Oh, I would be. Would you loan me Captain Tiki?
We got to talk to his agent.
I feel like the pie would have to come down, and then the big reveal would be him behind the pie, like for each. It's like Captain Tiki.
And this weird song that he sings, and then he leaves. He's just like, Nicholson's in a different movie than so many these other people. I remember for a while the criticism against this. Like, we all loved it, and then there was like this turn, because this is what we do as a culture. Like, we love something, and then we turn against it.
Yep.
And then usually after the third act of that is it kind of just balances out. It's like I love this thing. You know what? I was wrong to love this thing. It's not any good. Sucks. And then it's like, well, you know what? I don't know if I love it. Yeah, I don't know if it's as good as I thought it was, but it's pretty good. That's the cycle. Or the other direction, which is I hate this thing. And then it usually goes to like, you know what? I was wrong. I don't hate this thing. I love this thing. I was wrong about it all this time. And then of course inevitably you're just like, I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's okay. Everything always evens out over time. But we loved Jack Nicholson, and then the criticism became he was too big. He was the star of this. And Tim Burton does shoot this movie like Jack Nicholson, like the Joker is the star of this movie.
Yes.
He's got way more screen time. The camera loves him. It almost feels like Batman is a secondary character in his own movie.
Well, and as you know, that was my chief complaint with Batman Returns, was that Tim Burton was more of a Penguin guy, and that he was filming, as I said to you before, Heath, I need more Batman in my Batman movie. And Batman Returns, to me at that time at least, felt like Batman was a secondary character.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that Tim Burton probably does identify with the villains.
Because he sees them as, they're like circus freaks or rejects to him,
Yeah.
And that's, the only bigger circus freak than Batman would be the villain.
Mm-hmm.
The deformed villain, which we definitely got in spades with Danny DeVito as the Penguin, right?
Yeah, and when they announced that he was doing Dumbo, that Tim Burton was directing Dumbo, at first I was like, what? That seems so bizarre. But then it clicked. I was like, well, yeah, Dumbo's like this circus outcast.
And he was also in Big Fish, which was by Tim Burton as well.
Yeah.
And Dumbo sees the return of Michael Keaton, correct?
That's right. Oh, man, yes. I didn't even put that. I mean, I saw Keaton in the trailer, but yeah, he's got his Batman. Tim Burton never burns a bridge, apparently. Like,
No.
unless it's Kevin Smith.
Right. That bridge is burning somewhere in Jersey as we speak.
He doesn't seem to cut ties with people that he's worked with, though. He seems to hold on to them. He collects people.
He does. So I think they enjoy the collaboration. I mean, Johnny Depp for the longest time, right? That was the, Martin Scorsese had Robert De Niro and Tim Burton had Johnny Depp.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah.
now Johnny Depp has his own island, or did for a while at least.
Yeah, I don't know if he's going to have it for a lot longer, but he does now at the moment.
Isn't that where Captain Tiki originated from? Or was that parts unknown?
Parts unknown, but it could very well be. Yeah, parts unknown.
So here's this great Brady Bunch scene that you and I discussed at one point where it's like, what's going on? There's monitors, yet these guys are looking to the side as if they're actually looking at the Joker. Shouldn't the Joker be on all the monitors, or shouldn't the press conference be on all the monitors? It just seemed very strange to me. I mean, talk about campy. That's a little.
It's so campy. Yeah.
Look at this. Look at these police officers playing cards and.
No, like Helena Bonham Carter was working the bar.
Yeah.
Like, is that he has a type. Tim Burton has a type.
You're right. Yeah, for sure.
It's just I want your hair to be up, and then like it's like messy, but it's sexy at the same time, and you get like makeup on.
Yeah, he wants you to look like the lead singer from The Cure, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it Robert Smith? I believe
it is. Yes.
That's the extent of my Cure knowledge, other than the great song they added to the Crow soundtrack.
Well, I need to revisit The Crow. That's a movie that it came up in the Robin Hood Prince of Thieves commentary because it's got Michael Wincott in it. Robin Hood, and he was the bad guy in The Crow.
Yes.
And so I was talking to Brie. I was like, I need to show you that because she loves The Cure. She's, like this pale white blonde girl who loves all this dark stuff. Like she hides it well, but she's got this real emo streak running through her. I was like, you need to see this because it's got the stuff that Stone Temple Pilots and The Cure. Yeah, I don't even know what song they did for The Crow because I haven't watched The Crow in ages.
I was very impressed. Yeah, with when I was over, and you let me go through her vinyl collection and some of that stuff. I was like, wow, Brie, this is amazing. Like Bauhaus and. Just like weird. Wow.
I tell you this, for Christmas, I bought her. The Cure just put out this 3-disc set of remixes, and I bought it for her for Christmas, and we've been listening to it, and it's actually really good. Who knew there was something to these Cure guys?
It's not going to be long before you're hanging by your ankles upside down at all hours of the night, turning into a bat.
One can hope. One can hope.
That's the next step.
Now we're watching the flashback scene where it all goes down. Basically, the entire series premise of Gotham is happening right now. But Adam West he's on record as saying that he was disappointed that he hadn't been offered a cameo role in this movie. And I think the speculation was like, well, who would he have even been? And Thomas Wayne is the suggestion that he would have been the father. But that would have killed this scene completely because you're not watching The Birth of Batman. You're just watching Adam West. Or you would be. I just think that's funny. That's
yeah.
There's our hotel.
Yeah, we're up to what, 48 times now?
Yeah, I think so. It's the hotel, the drinking game. Where just every time you see the hotel, you take a shot. A lot of Dutch angles in this scene too. Well, there were. Hey kid, you ever dance? The devil in the pale moonlight.
So Sam Hamm, the screenwriter, one of the screenwriters, was on record saying that this was definitely not his call to make the Joker the murderer of Bruce Wayne's parents.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a writer's strike, and while the movie was being filmed, Sam Hamm could not be on set. And, as there are with big, huge productions like this, they do have multiple rewrites and revisions, and even sometimes rewriting the day of shooting. And Sam Hamm definitely made it clear, like, hey, all you Batman diehards and all you fanboys, don't come after me with your torches and your pitchforks. that was not my call. So whether you like it or not, if you didn't like it, don't blame Sam Hamm. And if you did like it, well.
I wonder if he was responsible for Alfred letting Vicky Vale into the Batcave, just dropping her at the, it's just like, this way, here you go, here he is. All right, see you later.
Yeah, no, he also coincidentally was against that. And he said there were two things actually. And this was the second thing that he said. He was like, yeah, this would never fly. But, writing and when you're not writing a novel at least, but something like this is all about compromise and collaboration. And this was probably a battle. Well, we know it was a battle he lost.
Mm-hmm. And it's fine. It doesn't really, it's not great from a storytelling perspective, but it doesn't really ruin anything.
No.
It's just kind of in bad taste for Alfred to do this. But the Alfred in these movies is kind of like a parent.
Yeah, I felt like he was looking out, like he was the, he was almost like the Tinder for Bruce Wayne. Like he wanted him to have a woman in his life. Like he did everything he could to find him a lady, just let her in, open up, because maybe I won't be here forever. And you'll need somebody else. And that was my take. Exactly what you said. He had that paternal type role.
Yeah. So for the criticism that we can throw at that scene,
yeah,
it's kind of sweet.
Yeah, I think
it's not great, but it's kind of sweet because Alfred's looking out for his boy.
It never crossed my mind when I saw this as a kid.
I love this shot right here where the machine gunned the door off.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah, it never crossed my mind either. It's one of those postmodern things that we complain about retroactively. Like, well, how could he fight crime if he can't move his neck? We don't really let ourselves go with anything anymore. We have to call out
every detail that there's no suspension of disbelief, right?
And then we call them cinema sins. We just things we're not supposed to notice. We just call out and be like, whoa.
Hashtag. Yeah, never mind.
I'm going to start over and just take it from the top. I like this. It's just like blowing this place up. This is
like we're just like, you know what? We got some extra money in the budget. Let's just get the pyro going.
Yeah.
This is going to be like a White Snake video. Let's just go.
He's rolling out. He's just like, here I go again on my own. Tawny Katane comes out and lays across the front of the Batmobile. I've always felt like this shot. What am I trying to say? Like it exposes him. Like he's so lit. I don't mean like the young kids are like, man, Batman's so lit. I don't mean it like that. Like he's overlit and it just looks weird. Like he looks kind of artificial, or it looks like a dude in a costume.
Was that Reba McEntire?
Maybe so. I know what I like. I like Fritos.
Remember her
Fritos ad? Yes. You've pointed out before in take one that these are very Tim Burton clowns.
They are.
And they're very phallic clowns too.
They are. And also, do we have the Prince music playing at this point? Sorry.
We do, yeah. I believe it's Pot in My Hand.
Yeah,
Pot in My Hand.
We really didn't talk about Prince yet, but the Bat Dance. What do you think? What's your take?
I mean, I didn't really get into it at the time. The Prince music felt kind of tacked on to me. I was never like, I liked When Doves Cry. I always have a soft place for Little Red Corvette and things like that. No entendres meant by that, but I just never really got into Prince, and so I didn't have the soundtrack. I did have this. I had the score because that was like a Prince soundtrack, right?
Yeah, and then there was the
Danny Elfman score, and I had the score. I still do. So I didn't really dig the Bat Dance like everybody else seems.
No, and you know what else too is I don't feel like Tim Burton would have known Prince music. Like, I feel like this was totally a studio decision. I just, can you picture Tim Burton cranking, Purple Rain or something? I don't see it.
No, it's not. It doesn't fit his aesthetic. And that doesn't have anything to do with Prince. Like, I think Prince is
No,
pretty. Have you ever seen Prince's halftime show for the Super Bowl?
it's one of, if not the best, right?
It's incredible. It's just the dude owning like thousands of people. It's just
In the rain.
in the rain. I know, it was amazing. But yeah, it just like it felt weird in this movie. But I that's just because I wasn't in love
But
with what was
let's
happening.
not forget too, though, that this was still, 1989. You still got MTV, and it's
Mhm.
still a music entity. You're still going to MTV to get your
Right.
fix of music videos. You're not going to YouTube, and you're still getting artists that are making these huge productions of music videos where they're spending millions of dollars.
Hmm.
Uh, you know, we're not too far removed from Michael Jackson spending all that money on his music videos where they're like shot like mini movies and shorts. So I could kind of see, well, let's appeal to that MTV generation.
Hmm.
Okay, let's get Prince. I could see where that somebody in the one of the bean counters and the executives might make that decision. Get Prince on the bat phone, see if he's available.
I think it worked too because I
It
know a
did.
lot of people love that Bat Dance
Well, I,
crossover.
I bought it just because I wanted the samples
Hmm.
from the movie.
The
I wanted to
dialogue.
hear, yeah, the town needs an enema or something like that, right? He says.
Hmm. Yeah. Yep. I want to point out too that they don't. I believe it was cut, but the money that the Joker is throwing has his face on it. It's fake money, so he's appealing to the people. He's presenting himself as the savior of the people, the man of the people. But it's all just a part of his plot to kill everybody. It's not even real money. It's
Some
just
things never change, though, do they?
no.
Hmm.
That's yeah. I think like half the audience is unsubscribed. Just kidding. It's a very here's the man. That's so weird. That
Yeah.
balloon just like you know who we're not talking about?
Who's that?
Robert Wool.
Hmm.
Do you know why we're not talking about Robert Wool?
Hmm.
Because he doesn't have anything to offer in this movie.
No, he's the poor man's Jimmy Olsen.
I don't even understand why he's in this. He's completely unnecessary.
Was he even like a thing at that time? I don't recall
I don't
him
think so.
being like, he had a show on HBO later, right? Like Arliss.
Later. Yeah, that was later. I don't think that was in the 80s. That
And
was
I don't know
90s.
of anybody that watched it. Do you?
No, I don't. I'm sure people did because it was on for years, but um,
Right.
I
But
don't think.
that was when HBO didn't really have Game of Thrones or The Sopranos either, I don't think.
Yeah, it was like HBO Phase 1.
Yeah, we're just like,
Phase 1 of the HBO universe. The HBO cinematic universe.
although I was a big fan of, was it Not Necessarily the News? You remember that show on
I
HBO?
didn't have HBO, so
Oh,
no.
yeah.
Sorry.
It's worth a gander, sir, if you check it
Okay.
out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Model Batwing, Batplane flying through matte paintings, sets, models. A lot of model work going on here.
Look at that baby too. That's just
It's a
totally something out of Tim Burton's sketchbook.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's like a baby, but be like a scary baby or something. Like it's like he's unhappy. He's screaming, like I am inside.
Yeah, it's like a bizarro Looney Tunes baby, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah.
Now watch that is definitely not Vicky Vale driving.
No. No.
Look
Good
at
call.
look at it. Look at that. Oof.
Does that person have something on their head? It's like they had like a veil or something on. Stunt padding. Yeah, I don't understand Robert Wool being in this movie because every scene that he's in, like at the beginning, at the Wayne Foundation party and he's asking for a grant, and he really just seems there to be to guide Vicky Vale towards certain situations. Like she's doing this research on like what happened with Bruce Wayne's parents, and like he's there for that scene. But it really seems like all of his scenes
Yeah.
took him out of it. She could do all those things by herself.
And it's worth pointing out too that Robin was written in the original script. Speaking of being cut out, they never filmed it, but they did make storyboards, and there was a very brief action sequence where we get sort of the introduction and the origin of Robin, and they decided to leave it out because it would have. I'm not sure exactly why. If it was the budget or if it was just it felt too much. Too once.
I think it would have been too much.
It definitely would have been. Yeah, but
I'm glad that he's not in this because I like the idea of just a solo Batman movie, and even the next one. You know, right. I always preferred, like at this time, I preferred the solo Batman stuff.
Do you really think he would have fit though? I mean, this darker.
No. Maybe if they'd gone in a dark direction with it, and he'd been like the hold on, wait for it, here it comes,
the money shot,
boom, that is the coolest. I still love that. I got goosebumps from that. Legitimately got goosebumps from that.
Yeah,
I'm such a nerd. Maybe if they'd gone with a, I'm trying to think of the not Tim Drake, not Dick Grayson. The one that got killed, what was his name?
Jason Todd?
Jason Todd, yeah. Maybe if they'd gone like a street tough Jason Todd kind of direction, maybe it could have worked in this movie. But I don't know. That's what we were doing back then. This is the Jason Todd era. That was who was Robin. So
call that phone number.
Yeah. I'm gonna vote for him to live.
What a crazy marketing scheme that was. Wow.
Yeah.
In the 80s, no less.
We're quickly running out of time because this movie is going to be over in about 20 minutes. You want to talk about the toys?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you have any of the toys?
So I did. Yeah, I remember I had Batman, and I definitely got price gouged on it because the toys, I'm not sure if it was because they were so hard to get at first or if it's because the local comic book shop maybe got them in sooner. But it was a Toy Biz Batman, and let's say whatever they were going for at the time, $5 retail. Let's just say for an example, I remember it being the equivalent of like $20, and they had one at this comic book shop, and I was the sucker that paid $20. Yeah, and let's be honest, it's not the best Batman figure.
No, he's got like a butterface. He's the paint application. Well, first of all, the sculpt
right by
is not
butterface
great.
we mean. He looks like it's doughy. It's almost sculpted out of a piece of butter, right?
I mean it very literally. Yeah, he looks like he's made out of butter. Like it's round and it's fleshy, and the paint application on everyone that I ever saw exceeded the face and went to the cowl on the neck and like the side of the head. So it always looked like he had a double chin. Mine did. A few of the ones that I had, like my friends had one. Those did. I see them on the internet now. Those all have the same face. Like it was not a great figure, but I loved it because that's what I had, and it was the black suit Batman. And his belt like came off as a. It didn't come off, but you could.
It was almost you used it as a grappling type.
Yeah.
Deal where he would supposedly scale up to a roof or whatever you would attach it to, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I get that. My figure got tons of play. I still got it around here somewhere, I think. But yeah, it wasn't great. And it was a limited line too. I don't know why it was such a small line. It's like they didn't see it coming. The success, because there was a Joker. They didn't have Nicholson's likeness rights, correct?
Correct.
Because he doesn't look. I mean,
no. If they did, they didn't get their money's worth because it really didn't look like them.
Same people sculpted that sculpted the Butterface Batman. And then there was Bob the Goon.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anybody else in that first wave?
No, I mean, you didn't even get an Alfred. Not that you would really want one, but it seemed like a logical.
I mean, I guess like watching the movie, that is, I suppose, that's the core right there is Batman, Joker, and Bob. Bob's really the only other bad guy we have a name for in this movie.
But Heath, if you didn't want an action figure, guess what you could get?
What's that?
Well, you could get T-shirts.
Yes.
You could even go to your barber, and guess what?
What?
You could get the bat symbol right
in your head,
shaped right in your head.
You could. It happened. This is a thing. It really happened. Could you imagine somebody loving Avengers so much that they get like the A? I mean, maybe they do, and I'm just out of touch. I don't think we've seen a movie take the world by storm as much as this one did since this movie. I don't think I'm being hyperbolic either. Like I specifically remember like billboards in Times Square, the cover of every magazine, every toy store was doing the toys, the comic books, like we were talking about the VHS tapes. I mean, Batman.
Right. But wait, Heath, there's more.
Oh, okay.
Because guess what?
What?
You could get your picture taken with the Batmobile. You really could.
How could you do that, Josh?
So you and I have this shared experience, right? In a weird sort of way. It was probably the same Batmobile, but I was at the local county fair, and the cable company at the time brought in the Batmobile, one of the Batmobiles from the movie, and you could stand in front of it, at least I could, and for maybe $15 or so, you would get a Polaroid of yourself in front of the Batmobile. Don't dare touch it. There was a velvet rope around the Batmobile. I do remember that because I wanted so badly to just lean over and touch it. And I knew that guy was watching me that took my money, so I didn't want to get kicked out of the county fair, God forbid. But I did get a Polaroid taken with the Batmobile, and I think I'm not the only one. Is that true?
That is true. Yeah, I went to a car show with my dad circa 1989 or 1990, and they had the Batmobile. I think that's one of the reasons that I wanted to go, is because they'd advertised that the Batmobile was going to be there. And it was this Batmobile. And
it was quite the draw.
It was. I didn't get a picture with it. I just saw it, but I did get maybe I did get a picture with it. Okay, you know what? Like there's this hazy memory. Maybe I had a Polaroid of myself with the Batmobile. Maybe me and my dad. That does seem kind of familiar.
So to stay on brand, I don't know. I'm sure I have it here somewhere. I do remember seeing it though years ago, the Polaroid, and in the Polaroid, I'm wearing a Batman t-shirt.
Oh, that's amazing. That t-shirt was everywhere. Like if you didn't have that shirt, you were not cool.
The shirt that I had specifically in that photo, it was half of Batman's face and half of the Joker's face.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's probably from JCPenney or somewhere, and I thought, man,
I'd wear that now.
Right?
That's cool. This is very the scene is very like old school Universal, like Universal monsters. Do you know anything about do you have anything to say about where this scene might have come from?
Funny you should ask. So apparently Jack Nicholson, and I believe it might have been Peter Guber, the producer, went to a production of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom of the Opera. And they were so impressed by a scene that involved the Phantom dancing with the female lead in the. I've never seen the Phantom of the Opera, so I apologize. But that Nicholson.
Have you seen the Universal movie?
The original back in the day, sure. Yeah, okay. But I know they were, because Phantom of the Opera, the Andrew Lloyd Webber version was huge around that time, right? It was.
Yeah.
And I remember people were buying the soundtrack, and I remember seeing commercials for the touring version of it. But so Nicholson looked at Peter Guber and said, that's what we need, and that was added to the script.
Yeah. And that scene, like what we're watching, they're just dancing in this tower. That's totally straight out of
The Pale of the Moonlight.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They have just taken that straight from Phantom of the Opera. And I'm going to point out too, I think this is kind of weird, but Batman's fighting this guy, and he's about to kill him. Now, there's this big thing, I saw this recently, where Zack Snyder, who is in charge of rebooting, you know, the last round of the DC Universe movies. He's, you know, it's very important to him that we understand that Batman is a killer. That Batman does kill. It's important that Batman kills, and he argues this point. He's arguing. He said it again somewhere else recently, because it's come back up again. And people are like, no, man, Batman does not kill. Well, he often does. I think there's many versions on the screen where he does kill. And he's about to do it here because he's about to just drop this guy down this shaft.
Yeah, it's a bit of a. It's almost like a Hurricane Rana.
And in Batman Returns, they like upped the ante. He's like blowing people up with bombs and stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Here we go.
Yep.
619.
There he goes. It's like Shane McMahon off the top of a steel cage.
There we go.
Minus the crash pad.
Yeah, minus the crash pads. But here too, it's you know, we saw with those bells that it's like Hunchback of Notre Dame too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Which is an old school Universal movie, so I wonder how much of that is just Tim Burton's childhood and his fandom of old horror coming back to influence this. I don't know.
Heath, what's going on with Vicky Vale though? Is she playing possum, or is she just drugged up here? What? She's not fighting back. What's going on?
It's weird, isn't it? Because she's like a rag doll. Like she's just like completely limp. She seems as if she's been drugged, but it goes against the entire character that she's been for the last hour and 45 minutes or however long she's been on screen. It's weird, and they don't explain it, and I don't know if there's an on-screen or like a script explanation for that, but she just gives up completely until here, where she's like, oh, well, I'll play along with the ruse so I can get Batman to give him an opening here. But up until that point, like, yeah, is she biding her time? Or is she just defeated? Is she just like, well, this is happening? Because either one, like, if that's what it is, that doesn't fit. That's not who she's been. So I don't know. That's weird. I mean, this is the photographer who went to the front lines of the war to film dead bodies and stuff, like the action.
That's right.
And here she is just limp.
Now this is very Looney Tunes, something out of a Bugs Bunny or Roadrunner, Wile E. Coyote type. I feel, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Burton really wasn't an action movie director. But look, this is, granted, it's the Joker, but it has that Chuck Jones type vibe to it, in my opinion.
Yeah, maybe by design, I guess. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah, he has said, by the way, this bothers me. He's like, you killed my parents. And then, like, the Joker knows what he's talking about. He's like, I made you. Like, you made me. Just having this back and forth about, like, I was a kid when I killed your parents. Like, how does he know who he is? How does he know? Did he just kill a lot of people's parents when he was a kid and he hasn't killed any parents in a long time? Because I don't think that's it. That script, that's a problem.
Yes.
But what was I talking about? I was on to something. Oh, he said, I read recently that he said, or I read, where Tim Burton thinks that this is a boring movie and he's not happy with it.
Really?
Yeah. And I think it's because of the things that you said, because he's not an action director and this is predominantly an action movie, or, tries to be. I think he's just not interested in this stuff outside of the villains. I think that's what that comes down to. I'm interpreting, but yeah, he's interested in the madness and not the ride.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Arkham Asylum earlier, I believe, right, or the video game. But man, he would be a great choice to direct an Arkham Asylum type movie, We're seeing these one-offs that are coming out with like Joaquin Phoenix as the Joker, and it's like, man, just give Tim Burton one of those if we're just going to do a character study without the Batman in the actual movie.
Yeah, that would be cool. I'd be all for that. That would actually be. I don't want to talk too much about the current state of DC movies, but I think that Tim Burton would have a lot to offer, a character piece about the villains, or a villain. Just let him pick one, because that's clearly what he cares about.
How weird is it though that here we are in 1989 with Tim Burton, having this cutting edge and this dark, the Dark Knight, and now 2019 he's full Disney.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, was it the movie before that was the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, right? That's a kids movie.
Willy Wonka, and he did Alice in Wonderland, right? All these. Did he have children of his own? Did it shift his own?
Must be. Even Dark Shadows. Did you watch Dark Shadows?
I tried.
It's a goofy movie.
Yeah, it's not my favorite Tim Burton.
Yeah.
And I'm a big Tim Burton fan.
I'm with Tim Burton up to Planet of the Apes, and then I jump off for that, and then I'm back on for Big Fish, and then I think I'm off for good at that. No, Sweeney Todd.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he keeps getting me back every time. Just when I think I'm out, they pull me back in. I do really like Sweeney Todd.
You did like Planet of the Apes?
No, I jumped off.
Okay,
no.
all right. You scared me there for a minute. I thought we were going to disconnect.
I've only seen it once. I have it. I think it's in the box set. I have it somewhere, but I have that version, but I haven't watched it since the theater.
Yeah, that was...
Why would you?
No.
I feel like that snap. I don't want to... I'm doing that thing now where I'm taking it way to like the postmodern thing. Like,
You feel like they would have... Right. They would have snapped their backs in half right there.
Yeah, they'd be just... Their bones would just be mush in their shoes at this point.
So look at this King Kong imagery, right?
Yeah. And up on the tower, he had called her. He said that they were Beauty and the Beast.
Right.
And then here's your King Kong payoff for that, because it wasn't. What's the quote? Tis
the beauty killed the beast, right?
Yeah. Or I guess in this case it was just a gargoyle, but.
Which was a Disney cartoon, wasn't it? The Gargoyles.
Yes, it was. Look at you. You should be like a writer, because you have a really good...
Do you know anyone that's hiring?
We also didn't really talk about Commissioner Gordon much in this, but I think that we both don't love Commissioner Gordon in this movie.
Not compared to Gary Oldman, I think, right? Is that the consensus?
Yeah, I think so. He just doesn't... He just seems...
He doesn't have that lived in...
Yeah.
Like he put in the long hours on the street as a patrol cop, worked his way up the ranks, and...
Yeah. He feels like an oaf.
He feels like he could be Alfred's assistant or the chef in the kitchen, maybe. Yes. In my opinion.
Yeah, even this line that like Lando's all over it. I call him Lando. Billy D's all over it. Like he's just like, the fuzzles of evil arise to cast a shadow on the heart of the city. And then Commissioner Gordon's like, he gave us a signal. Just like the dorkiest, just the weirdest read of this line. I know this guy's got good credibility as an actor and everything, but I've never really connected with him as Commissioner Gordon. There's a few things in this movie that I just don't think work. I don't think that he works. I don't really. We've called it out. We've called out some of the things that just don't seem quite right. But
I can't tell you how many times I watched this as a kid. Yeah. I mean, I probably wore that tape out. Right. I mean, it was the movie to watch. Absolutely.
This, for all the things that I've said about it, I do still love. I think this is my favorite Batman movie. If we were watching Batman Returns, I might have the same thing to say about Batman Returns, but I do think it's this movie because it sets so much up. It built this world, this completely artificial. This feels like a comic book world. This does not feel like Chicago. This does not feel like New York City. This feels like this completely fabricated world, and I believe that Batman lives there. And I believe that he, like, the architecture, the lighting, the industrial. Right. This is a city that had an industrial past. They're still rooted in their industry. You can just see, you can imagine what's down every alley. It feels like a real city in the sense. It feels like a living city.
And what a feat for Tim Burton to pull off so early in his career.
Yeah.
I mean, for a young director, let's not undersell the fact that this guy was pretty new at the time, and he
It's
had
true.
quite an accomplishment with this
Yeah.
film.
And with that iconic shot, we are off to the credits. Well, do you have anything else you have to that you want to get in about this movie?
I think we've pretty much covered it all. I mean, what's the bottom line? The verdict is, has it? I mean, let's be honest. You and I have watched it twice in the past 72 hours,
Yeah.
and I still enjoyed it. I haven't seen it prior to Sunday. I hadn't seen it in years.
Yeah, this is your third time now inside of a week, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm still digging it. I gotta
Yeah.
tell you, I'm not tired of it. It's still so maybe I'm just gonna say, you know what, it holds up. Bottom line, and
Yeah.
I love it. Maybe it'll never get old for me.
Yeah. I agree with that. I would say it does hold up. It feels like 1989. So it has aged as far as like fashions and things like that. But weirdly, 1989 doesn't seem as long ago as it used to. Um, and this movie does in a lot of ways because it's so artificial and the world that it builds. It feels kind of timeless. This Gotham feels just as much like it's from 1945 maybe as it does 1989. So I think all those things really work for it. And
Absolutely, and we're lucky that it was such a blockbuster because it could have had a very negative repercussion and sort of an opposite of the domino effect, where instead of seeing Hollywood take notice of like, oh, wait a minute, there's something to be said here. There's money to be made in comic books. Had this movie flopped, we might not have gotten Spider-Man a few years later and the X-Men a few years later and so on and so forth.
yes,
So this is a very pivotal film, and if for anything, it set up the Batman franchise again.
it did. Yeah, this was the first of a whole wave. It started a whole new thing. Well, Josh, where can people if they want to follow your work, do a little promotion for where people can read some of your recent work.
Well, of course, the easiest thing is just go to Amazon and type in my name, and you can find me there, or all sorts of social media platforms, typically just under my last name as the handle, Jab Kuga, and reach out and touch me. I'm always happy to talk.
All right. Well, thank you so much for watching this movie with me not once, but or doing a commentary with me not once, but twice. I really appreciate
I
this.
had so much fun, believe me, I really did, and I hope everybody listening to this got something out of it, because I'm a huge fan of Serial at Midnight, so it meant a lot to me. It was a big thrill to be here with you, Heath.
Oh man, I appreciate that. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you for listening to this commentary. Let us know what you think about it. Weigh in with your thoughts and your comments, and the Patreon comments and the video comments wherever this is. Let's talk about it, guys. Thank you. Until next time, we'll catch you later.